Welcome to Stoughton Town Hall. I'm Jeffrey Pickette from Stoughton Media Access, and I'm here to bring you live election results on this town election 2014 in Stoughton. It's a contested race in both the Board of Selectmen and the school committee. 5 people vying for 2 seats on the school committee. George Dolinsky and Deb Sovany are the incumbents. Katie Pina-Enokian and Joe Soares and Randy Yanoff are the challengers. On the Board of Selectmen side, after Stephen Astos elected not to run for re-election after 6 years on the board, John Anzavino, the other incumbent, is running for re-election. Both were elected back in 2008, and Anzavino is looking for a 3rd term on the board. He's challenged by David Spanky Sousa and former selectman Joe Mokrisky. We can tell you that the rest of the races, bearing a last-minute unforeseen write-in campaign, the Housing Authority, Redevelopment Authority, and moderator races have already been decided. Howard Hanson, longtime moderator, he will be controlling the gavel at Town Hall, or excuse me, at Town Meeting once again this spring season. Michael Barrett will be elected to the Redevelopment Authority, and Richard Jasmine to the Housing Authority. The only contested Town Meeting race is in Precinct 4, where 12 citizens are vying for 7 spots for town meeting. So bear with me. I'm going to be looking at my phone a few times to give you the results. Christine Yakabuchi is doing a great job downstairs as our runner, getting all of the results. Eric Stankiewicz is in the control room running the show from the technical side of things. And I'll be joined in a few moments by Joseph Feaster, who was the interim town manager in the town of Stoughton, and a town meeting member, and also a host of Community Forum, which you can watch right on Stoughton Media Access. So the unofficial totals, I'll give you a second to take out your pens at home if you want to write this down. The unofficial totals.
You want a piece of paper here, Peter? You all set? All right.
Unofficial totals for the Board of Selectmen. Again, this is coming from our reporter downstairs, Christine Yakabuchi, who's down at the town clerk's office right now getting all of these results. And for Selectmen, Spanky Sousa with 1868 in first place. Again, these are the unofficial results for all 8 precincts. Spanky Sousa, 1868 in first place. Joe Mokrisky in second place with 1591. And John Anzavino, a 6-year selectman, he was running for his 3rd term. He comes in 3rd with 960 votes. Joe Mokrisky has been a selectman on and off for the past couple of decades. Spanky Sousa, this is his first go around sitting in the seats behind me. The school committee, the 2 incumbents, George Dolinsky and Deb Sovany, first elected in 2011. Sovany served the year before, replacing a school committee member who had resigned. They are both defeated. And in their place, Joe Soares gets the bragging rights with 1418, taking the school committee race with 1,418 votes. And Pina-Enokian coming in a close second with 1,377 votes. I would say, off the top of my head, 41 votes behind Joe Soares. A distant 3rd and 4th, Deb Sovany coming in with 940 votes, and George Dolinsky with 900 even, and Randy Yanoff with 338. There was a 16% turnout today. 16%, which means that 84% stayed home. 2,911 ballots. Where does that put that in perspective? This is about the same turnout that you saw back in 2010. 2010 had 2,871 ballots with a 16% turnout. This was This was 16% with a few more ballots. There's a few more registered voters than there were 4 years ago. So again, let me read these results for you. Spanky Sousa, 1868. Joe Mokrisky, 1591. Those are your two new selectmen. And John Anzavino defeated in his quest for a third consecutive term on the Board of Selectmen, coming in third with 960 votes. On the school committee, incumbents Deb Sovany and George Dolinsky lose their re-election bid. Joe Soares and Pina-Enokian coming in first and second respectively. Joe Soares with 1,418 votes and Pina-Enokian with 1,377 votes. Deb Sovany with 940, George Dolinsky with 900, and Randy Yanoff with 338. The turnout was 16%, and the total was 2,911 ballots cast. The non-contested races: moderator, Howard Hanson; redevelopment authority, Michael Barrett, that's Michael Barrett; and housing authority, Richard Jasmine. We're still waiting to see if we can get precinct 4 results for you for the town meeting rep, but we gave you the big news of the night. The incumbents are swept out of office, and the challengers have won, and won decisively tonight. That's Spanky Sousa and Joe Mokrisky on the selectmen side, and Joe Soares and Pina-Enokian on the school committee side. Joe, give me your thoughts, and then I'd like to start getting some candidates to join us up here.
Well, first, even though the results are unofficial, I think it's, I think it would be appropriate at this time to congratulate Spanky Sousa and Joe Mokrisky on their wins. The numbers indicate that they will be the Board of Selectmen candidates who are successful and will be the Board of Selectmen in going forward in the town of Stoughton. And similarly, in the school committee side, to congratulate Mr. Soares and Ms. Enokian as well on the school committee. Just in terms of the thoughts, I think that the people have spoken. There are a lot of issues that we're going to be facing here in the town of Stoughton, and I'm just hopeful that with the composition of the bodies that we have, both in the on the Board of Selectmen school committee, and as well with town meeting, the type of governance that we have here, which is representative town meeting, that we will engage folks to get involved in the process and try to resolve some of the burning issues which we have, such as our downtown, the issues around the the South Coast Rail, the master planning we're doing, the school, the building of a new high school, the building of a new library, our public safety building. All of these things are issues that are going to be before the Board of Selectmen as well as the school committee respectively, and I'm just hoping that in terms of that these individuals will take those issues with them to heart. But again, I want to congratulate those who have been successful in their candidacy. All
right, I'm going to start inviting candidates up. If we can maybe get Spanky Sousa and Joe Mokrisky to bring a chair up. And so, if you guys could, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
If you could sit beside.
Yeah. Come on, Spanky, you got it. Come on, you gotta get.
Sure, you're gonna hold me?
It'll have to.
These are chairs I sit in. They're gonna hold me. Oh, I like this. I can take this hold me. Big chair.
So if you guys actually maybe take the mics. All right, so I'll start off with what did you feel that after last week's vote with the town manager's contract extension, how the unions reacted to it? Do you feel that kind of turned the tide of the election at all, or did you already kind of feel the momentum building your way?
No, I think it turned. I think what the board did, I respect their wishes. Like I said, everybody makes their decision, a man of their word, a woman of their word. But like I said, I like to see our town workers, not only our town workers, they're our residents. We should take care of them first, and our teachers, and then worry about the management. That's how I look at it. So, but I guess Mr. Chris could have a different opinion. Mr. Anzavino has a different opinion, everybody has a different opinion, but on my opinion, that's what I plan to work for now for our employees and our people in this town.
And Joe?
I think without a doubt, it was a major issue that affected the outcome of this race. I've been around, this will make 15 years as a member of the Board of Selectmen when I complete it. I have never seen an outpouring of upset municipal employees as we did in this election. And when a 6-year member of the Board of Selectmen and current chairman is ousted, it sends a very clear message that the people did not like what they were seeing. So I think it was a key issue.
I just want to ask a question here, because just again, a lot of the politics that I was involved in, and I guess where I cut my teeth on was in Boston. And one of the things that I saw here today is more of the candidates, having their people. I received letters from you, Joe. I saw you out there, Spanky, at the polls, and I saw your people around at the polls, not just dressing the polls, but actually physically people out there at the polls doing that. I haven't seen that in past elections. Could you talk about whether that was something different, new, or it was I just haven't seen it in past elections?
Well, I guess that I would be able to speak to this better than Dave, where it's his first race. I agree with you, is that I had an outpouring of support from people that, before this election, would have liked to see me move to Florida, and they would have drove the moving truck.
Nice warm weather there, Joe. Nice warm weather.
So, I mean, you get that, Joseph, as you understand, you've been around this as well, that there goes where people just don't want to see you run again. And there was a whole different mechanism to this election. And you know first case, serving as an interim town manager the way you did, there's some members of the Board of Selectmen that don't understand what their role is as selectmen. And I think people got that message from the way this campaign was portrayed, and the information that went out there is that we're not here to run town hall. We're here to set policy and let the town manager and our department heads run it, because we're the voice of the people, 5 members of the Board of Selectmen. But unfortunately, you have members, as you know, that think that they're the everyday managers of the town. So that's not going to happen. I can't speak for David, but with me, I want to support our department heads and our employees, the paid professionals, to get the job done.
And I mic'd up.
All right.
I just tried two, they're just throwing them back.
I told you, I'm new at this. I'm new at this.
So when I believe your next meeting is next Tuesday?
Not soon enough.
So when you're sitting in these chairs behind us,
Okay.
what's the first thing that you would like to do as a selectman on the board again, and Spanky in your case for the first time?
For the first time. I'd like to settle contracts for our police, fire, DPW, and our town hall employees. Working class town, this is a working class town. There's been a lot of money going out. They say they have no money, but a lot of raises are going out to a lot of people in management. I have nothing against management, don't get me wrong, but we gotta take care of our work. These people protect our town. I said, our DPW, that never gets any credit. Those guys had a tough winter this year. Just like them, I plow. They did 3 or 4 days without sleep, and they continue going around the clock, and people don't realize what they do, so kudos to the DPW. We got an outstanding police department. I know Joey brought in the chief, so thank you for that, bringing in the chief and the job they've done, the department guys. Our fire department, like I said, these guys put their life on the line, not only the police and the fire. We just lost 2 officers in Boston, firefighters. We lost 1 in Plymouth. I'd love to see more officers on the street. I'd love to see more firefighters in the fire department. I'd love to see 3 ambulances run constantly in this town. This town is getting bigger. I'd like to see a new dungeon, the dungeon they live in. I'd like to see a new dungeon built. But it's a lot of work. We got to listen to the people. That's our biggest thing, is let the people come up here. I want the people to talk. This, it's an honor to be up here. Don't get me wrong. And I got to thank everybody. But everybody says, you're the new selectman. I'm not the new selectman. The selectmen is the people that all voted me in, and the people that didn't vote me in, please get to know me. I don't bite. I want to be here for you. This title belongs to those people who voted for me in. I'm just a representative like anybody else in this town. This is my hometown, like I was born in, and Joe's was born here. And the people want to make this hometown, let's make this our hometown. That's my biggest thing.
Joe, same question. We've quite the live audience. I hope we have just as enthusiastic one at home watching it on
Well, I guarantee you may not have the same on that one. You know, I think it's really a sense of instilling a new vision for the town. Town employees as well, I've backed town employees because they're very important. I was very disheartened to hear, in some cases, them being categorized as hacks or, you know, just the employees. But in a lot of cases, they're our fellow residents. They pay taxes here as well. They have a vested interest here. I've heard of people talk about, in my case, my kids are older now and out of the schools, they say, well, you don't have kids in the town. And I just think that that is the furthest thing from the truth, because I want to ensure for our schools that kids that are in the schools have the same opportunity that my kids had. My two boys graduated from Stoughton High, and I'm very proud that they went on, one joined the Navy, the other one joined the Army, and the values that they learned in Stoughton. So I want to be sure that everybody else has that opportunity. And I think that we need to change how the Board of Selectmen is viewed, is not a daily micromanaging board where the agendas seem to, you know, pop up at different times. It needs to be a board that can work together. I think there's a very diverse, I'll say diverse group of diverse opinions on the board. Some people have a difference, you know, as to what they think a selectman is here to do. So I think it's up to us to change how the Board of Selectmen is viewed, to stay out of the way of the paid professionals, let them do what they know how to do, but we need to set very clear goals for them. And I believe that some goals need to be set for some departments in town, so maybe different, you know, for some people up front.
Before we get to our next question, I just got word from downstairs that they're still counting the town meeting representatives for Precinct 4. I know that there's, I'm sure, a handful of residents out there that would like to know whether or not they will be elected to town meeting. Again, that's 12 residents vying for 7 seats in Precinct 4.
I just have a question, if I
sure,
can.
sure.
I want to come back to that first meeting that you mentioned, Jeff, because one of the early things that Joe and you know, having been there before, is you're going to need to pull together and elect a chairperson or a chairman for the body. So, you know, you won't be able to run, because in this case, that is, the person who was the chairman wasn't there, and that wasn't absolute in any event. And the second issue that I have is, there's always a concern that there can never be unanimity amongst the Board of Selectmen. They can't seem to come together and as a unified body in order to have a unified view, to have put a face forward which shows that, notwithstanding the differences you may have in the back room, but when you're here representing, as you always say, Spanky, that you're doing it for the people, doing it for the town. The criticism has been that has not what has been displayed here. So I'd like for both of you to speak to both of those issues.
Let me, because I think looking around, the people in the hall know that David and I have had definitely an exchange of words at times, and they can be very, very vocal.
Yeah, I like that word,
vocal.
Vocal's nice, yeah, I like
but you know, it all comes down to is you are here to do the job of the people, and it is. I can look back at my 12 years and know that I made a difference personally, and I think that's what you need to be able to say, is that when you leave here, you have had to make a difference for the average resident. How does it make a difference to the taxpayer? You know, I was very proud. The 2 biggest things that I did in 12 years was to hire the police chief and to re-energize the events committee, because both of them were positive things that the residents got to see. You know, because you nailed it, Joe. You know, they see the bickering, and unfortunately there are still members of this board that they think when they're elected, it's their job to accomplish their agenda. That's why the voters put them in office. And as you know, this goes back to the Lincoln-Douglas debates as to what is your role as an elected official. Are you there to listen to the people and do what you're told? Or are you there to represent them using your best sound judgment? And some people think it's their job to just accomplish their agenda. So.
And I want you, just before he goes to Spanky, is to say on that question of the chairmanship, how will you, you know, you would be a senior statesman, having been there over your 12 years serving as a...
Well, listen, you know, I've never been one to hold back anything. I'm not going to speak for anyone but myself. I don't want to be chairman. I just don't see myself doing it. And I have the utmost respect in TJ Recupero, and it would be my intention, you know, on my first meeting to nominate TJ for chairman. That's only what I can say for myself. I don't know where that'll go, but I've watched this board, and you know, with the people that are on the board right now, I like TJ's mannerism. I like his vision for the town. I like the way he interacts with his colleagues, even when they disagree. And I don't want to be a lightning rod on the board. And I believe that if I were to stick my name up for chairman, that's exactly what I'd get. It'd be a lightning board or a dart board. I don't know which one.
I don't
but
know,
that would
we Joes have that problem.
exactly. It's but that would be my intention on the first meetings to nominate T.J. Recupero for chair. Like I said, I can't speak for anyone else though.
Spanky?
I also agree with Joe. Like I says, Joe, both Joe and TJ, Joe's been there, like I says, 12 years. Either TJ or Joe, myself, or Joe is co-chair. Me personally, I'm real new at this. As they say, Portuguese people are greenhorns. I'm very green at this, but I gotta say before anything, I gotta say thank you to my all of my friends, family, everybody who came out to vote, my campaign committee, Joe Beata, Bobby Cohn, Peter Brown, and last but not least, my wife. For the past few months, she's been put up with a lot. My kids, my poor kids, I think they forgot who I am. I do love them, but like I says, I will give my heart and soul to this town. I was born here. I think me and Joe and the rest of the board, like I says, it's time to be truthful, be transparent. Let's tell this town, hey, this is what it is. We're not going to make all the right decisions all the time. I know that, and Joe definitely knows that. He's more experienced than I am on this. But let's do what's right for this town, and let's put, not everybody wants to be Wellesley or this. You know what? I am proud to be Stoughton. I am Stoughton proud. And I think Joe's the same way, so let's change Stoughton.
And I guess we're wrapping up here.
The Portuguese Club. Everybody's at the Portuguese Club. Wait for me.
I'm
Jeff.
going to ask the school committee.
My wife's going to get mad 'cause I'm not there.
If I can,
The
Joe,
school
before we
committee, sure,
close
sure.
out, I wanted to as well. Number one is to, of course, this win was made possible by the residents who put their trust in David and me. And I would like to thank the residents who have again, right now, for the 5th term for me, have put their trust in me to remain back on the Board of Selectmen. But with me is my good friend Dennis and Carleen Walsh, who you couldn't ask for better friends that stick behind you. And my girlfriend Maria Simas, who's celebrating her 28th birthday today, who is really 28. Yeah.
You're gonna get
Would you tell your wife's age?
me?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
A gentleman never tells the real
Listen,
age. She's 28. She will always be 28 to me.
I'm the boss, and I have her permission to say so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, she told me that. She told me so.
But when you do this, and unfortunately, Joseph, you've been around again, and I know that you cut your teeth in Boston. When you do these elections, you'll have people that'll stand on the corners and just shy of flip you the bird, because they don't like the fact that you're winning. But when you come in here and you've won a spot, they're your buddies. They'll put their arm around you, shake your hand, tell you they were with you, and they're your best friends again. And that's the problem with politics. Is it's okay to disagree. It's okay for somebody to tell me I didn't vote for you because I didn't think you'd make a good member. Thank you. I hope to earn your trust over the next 3 years. But I'm hoping that with
Joe,
the
you
way.
want that to you in your face.
Oh, yeah.
By someone tweeting anonymously,
Well,
saying bad things about you.
Anyone who
that's
sits in this,
actually-
I
That
had
is
that,
something
I had that
that-
done to me today already.
Yeah, well, they sit in
that
this
to me
cellar
today.
at their mother's house, and they're probably in their 60s, and they've never moved out. They got yellow fingers from their cigarettes, and so
You're
those
making
are the
friends
people.
already, yeah.
Well, you know something? The people on the blogs, guarantee you, I'd challenge anybody in this room. The blogs are already talking about me. David hasn't done anything yet, so they're talking about me.
I got elected.
So no, I'm saying the blogs. You haven't.
the
you
blogs, I
the
don't care about
blogs,
that.
You haven't
I just
screwed
got
up
this
enough.
one in December. I still
All
not
I
using
did,
it.
all I did was get reelected, and my name's all over the blogs now. I'll tell you that. But people like that, if you worry about those people, it eats you up like a cancer. You won't be productive. I'm gonna put the trust in the people that I met outside the polling places today, who said that they put their trust in me, and they're gonna be happy to see me go back on.
I'm gonna ask
So-
a favor to my middle brother up there in the audience, if you could call my little brother for me, 'cause he keeps calling me.
The middle brother called the little brother.
Well, I want to thank both of you for joining us.
Thank you
Spanky.
for having us,
And,
here
Joe?
in Stoughton, everybody. Thank you, and I look forward. If you have any questions, give me a call.
So,
If anybody wants to see me, I'll be down at the Portuguese Club for a few hours near the VFW. Thank you very much.
all right, so once again, those were our selectmen winners That was David Spanky Sousa and Joe Mokrisky. I'd like to invite up the winners in the school committee race, Jochen Soares and Pina-Enokian. If you can come up. And again, while we're transitioning up here, let me just go over the numbers again. We still haven't gotten the official printout yet from downstairs. Christine, if I can, I'm not sure how much background noise we're getting on the telecast. We're still waiting for the official printout from the town meeting, or excuse me, the town clerk's office, but the numbers that were delivered via text to me from downstairs from Christine Iacobucci, who's reporting. Again, Spanky Sousa with 1868, Joe Mokrisky with 1591, both of them taking the Selectmen's race. John Anzavino with 960, the 6-year veteran of the Board of Selectmen, coming in third, losing his bid for re-election. On the school committee, the incumbents also lost. Deb Sovany and George Dolinsky both were defeated in their quest for another term on the school committee. Deb Sovany and George Dolinsky with 940 and 900 respectively, well behind the two winners who are now seated. Joe Soares coming in first with 1,418, and Pina-Enokian with 1,377. Randy Yanoff with 338. 16% turned out for this election, which is right about on par with what we see in most town elections. As I mentioned probably about 20 minutes ago or so, it's right on par with, let's say, the 2009, 2010 results, 2012 as well. I thought there might be a chance we could have gotten close to 2008, which is when 23% showed up, but maybe the rain kept some people out in the morning. So, Katie, Joe, congratulations, and thank you for joining. And I will. I definitely got your name down now, and I at least have to for the next three years. So, what do you think was the key factor? And I asked the same question to Joe and Spanky when they were here. The key factor, it really seemed to be, especially when you looked on Facebook and a lot of the Facebook groups, there seemed to be a drive motivated by the teacher contract situation. Do you feel that that was a deciding factor or the deciding factor in your victory tonight?
Well, I believe that was certainly one of the deciding factors. First of all, I'd like to thank all of the people that voted for me, the 1,400, and also the people who didn't vote for me. I now work for all of them. Okay, also, I know that you asked the selectmen what they were going to do, so I'm going to say to you, one of the things that I intend to do is that I want to work for the $355,000 that is supposed to go back to the teachers, and that's one of the things that I want to get back into their hands. I think they deserve it, and I don't think it should be used for other things rather than just for that.
Same question to you, Katie.
Well, I definitely think that the contract had a big issue on this. You know, we have to, those teachers, like I said, they've taught our children, we have to treat them with respect. And I think a lot of parents out there thought the same way, and that's why I'm sitting here right now.
In terms of the math, though, can the town afford the type of increase? And this was a question, too, that could have gone for the selectmen candidates as well. I know the numbers out there, 24% has been presented, and then the 2.75 over the course of 3 years. I don't think that number is taking into account the step increases that is also built into the contract. So can the town afford a substantial increase in salaries for the majority of its budget?
Well, first of all, we don't fully understand the whole thing because we're not privy to it, as you already know. We're going to certainly get into that to find out what's going on with it. And once we do that, and no, I'm certainly not going to vote. And I don't think Katie is going to vote for a 24% increase. I don't agree with that at all. So, as I said, we're going to have to find out where it's going to go. Also, another thing I want to do is, when is the school committee meeting? Is it?
April 29th.
April 29th. I would like to see one sooner than that. And we're going to take a look into that and see if we can have one sooner than that.
I think a lot of the, from what I understand, I believe that if you keep the steps for the teachers the way that they have been for 40 years, I think that the 2.75 could be negotiated.
The cost of living down or just negotiated?
That's just a
Yep.
guess, but
Yep.
just.
Okay.
Well, the interesting thing, and again, congratulations to both of you. There was, in the last year's town meeting, there was a personnel bylaw that was voted that addresses the financial issues. So I think, as Joachim, as you said, when you get there and start to dig in and learn it, I mean, it's complicated. And so when you learn it, that's fine. But there are going to be some other pressing issues that you're going to have. You're going to have the same, well, I'll ask you both the same question that I asked the selectmen. You're going to have a situation of voting for a chair of the school committee. You also are going to have, there are some major issues which are right before you now, and that is the monies that have been allocated, well, at least a process for allocating or seeking funds from the school building authority for the high school. That's in front of you. There are some, you know, the third world issues is always in the sense of I don't know where the hiring process is with respect to the superintendent and all of those things. So any thoughts that you have on any of those issues as you go forth and attend to your new duties that you're going to have as school committee persons?
Young man, I feel like I'm in a debate.
I know.
God.
You're giving me a heart attack.
The best I'm going to be able to answer that is I'm just not getting my feet wet. I think what I want to do is find out what all the pros and cons are, and then once I do that, then I'll be able to have time to mull it all over and hopefully make a proper decision. So I apologize, but that's the best way I can answer.
Spoken like a true politician.
Katie?
I believe that with a respectful relationship between everyone, I think we can go far, and that's what I'm going to be working towards. Just a little respect goes a long way. And
I know that some harsh criticisms during the debates have been dealt out. When you first sit down and talk with the superintendent of schools, Dr. Margaret Rizzi, how do you anticipate this conversation going? What are some things that you would like to bring up with the superintendent when you first meet with her as now members of the school committee?
Well, first of all, Dr. Rizzi is the superintendent, and I think that she should be given the respect that she deserves. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And I hope that I will be a professional when I start working on the committee, and I hope that I will be able to show everybody else that I can be a professional also. I believe in the dignity of man. I also believe in what Katie said. Okay, there has to be respect, and those are the things that I intend to move forward on.
Katie?
like I said, Dr. Rizzi is the superintendent of our school, and she's a very smart lady. So I'm going to be working with her, and I'll show her the respect as I hope that she'll give right back to me.
And one of the issues that I kind of took more of a backseat in this election cycle, I think just because of the nature of how contentious the contract negotiations were, was the Stoughton High School potential building project, renovations, replacement, whatever the MSBA eventually recommends. With Deb Sovany, who was one of the leaders in the school administration side with pursuing that project, where do you stand on it, and who do you kind of see as taking the reins of, on the school committee of advocating for a replacement or a renovation of the building?
There definitely needs something to be done with the high school. The children in that school need more science labs for when I'm hearing stuff with the handicap. So, it needs to go forward. I'd have to see who's been going with doing that more often, and take it from there. But I think we all agree that the high school needs repair.
There's no doubt about it that the high school, excuse me,
I think he planned it that
Yeah.
way, so we didn't have to answer the question.
I know my wife was watching this. She's probably going to say to me, "Why didn't you shut it off?" And this is and during the debate, if you remember.
Yes.
Remember? It rings. So, and as a matter of fact, I totally forgot what I was going
No,
to
it's going to
say.
keep on ringing.
Now I got to
You're
shut it
talking
off.
about the high school.
Well, if it's your wife, you can tell her. I give you permission. You can answer and tell her.
No, I'm not sure what I did with it. We'll just leave it here. Yes, it's definite that we need a new high school. And as I said in my debates, not only do we need a new high school, we need a new library, we need a new fire station, we need a new fire station and police station, we need a new South School, etc. We need all of these things. I wish we had a 20-year plan, but we don't, okay? And that's something that we really need so that we can take a look at our spreadsheet and see where our money is going to go. So, am I committed? Yes, I'm committed, but how far can I commit to? I take a look at the expense. These are all capital expenses, and it's just too much all at once. So, you have my answer to that.
And I think Joe kind of tried to prod a little bit at it, but I'll try again. With the makeup of the school committee certainly changing, the chair, unlike the Board of Selectmen, the chair of the school committee is still on the school committee. Joyce Husseini won't be up for election until 2016. But the makeup of the board has certainly changed. When the board reorganizes, which in the past few years has traditionally been in after the school year has ended, so in June, who would you think about putting in the leadership position of the school committee?
Oh, there's no question to be Dr. Ural. I think Dr. Ural, from everything that I've gathered and everything I've seen, I think he's a very, very intelligent man. And as a matter of fact, he has most of the seniority that exists there today. So if I had my druthers, I would certainly vote for Dr. Ural.
Same question, Katie?
I think I would vote for Dr. Earl as well.
Any final thoughts?
I just want to say thank you to my husband, who's
Yes.
really, really been helping me an awful lot. Thanks, Vaughn. And thank you to everyone who voted for me and has supported me. I wouldn't be here without you all, and I will do the best to watch out for all our children.
And I believe she will too. Also, I'd like to thank my wife, of course. My wife is now beginning to say, "Gee, are you ever going to be home?" And I would like to thank Bob Belay up there. He's helped me through this campaign. And obviously, the people who voted for me, again, I will say that I work for you. That's the way it should be. And if anybody has any problems, please come see me. I'd appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you and congratulations. I appreciate you joining us. Joe, thank you.
Very much.
I see, do you want to? All right, George Dolinsky is in the audience and said he'd like to come on, so we're going to interview George Dolinsky. So again, thank you. Thank you again to Joe Soares and Pina-Enokian for joining us, and previously Joe Mokrisky and Spanky Sousa for joining us. George Dolinsky, who served on the school committee for the past 3 years, is here. George, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
You can use this mic.
Oh, I get a microphone? Wow.
So
Looks like a big lollipop.
a different experience for you this election night versus the one back in 2011.
Right.
What do you see any contributing factors to this? What's your reaction to the results tonight?
Well, they got the vote. Deb and I didn't. Okay, I think some of the things were the fact that we don't have a teacher's contract settled, which is monumental. Union vote that came out, the anti-incumbent vote, however you want to look at it, made a big difference. And we're on the short end this time. But there's next year. Look forward to us being back.
Well, that was going to be a question, but you kind of hinted at it, so it leaves the door open. You haven't closed the door on running again?
No, not at all. Not at all. Next year is next year. I'm going to sit back, talk to my people, and see what they think. I mean, I'm 72 years old, and I was going to plan to go to 75. I'm still a town meeting rep, have been for 30-some-odd years. I'm going to continue doing that. I enjoy that. It's only 30 hours or so a year, and I don't have to go out every Tuesday night. I can go back to bowling on Tuesday nights.
Well, let me ask you this, and again, want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You know, we can talk about what could have been, or some things that you may have done differently, but I would want to talk more on the side of saying, even as you are not going to be sitting as a school committeeman, you've been a person who has been involved and engaged in this town, particularly in sports, George, for many, many years. Do you see a role that you still will be able to play with regards to the schools, even though you're not sitting there as a school committee person?
That's a very interesting question. I don't know. Right now, I'm still on the negotiating team. We have another mediation session set up for Wednesday night, which I will be attending. And looking at the numbers, I don't think the people who got elected really understand the numbers. That's my opinion. Based on giving them what the teachers want, settle the contract, et cetera, it could cost the town possibly another $500,000 will be in the hole. Maybe you have to lay off some teachers. There's a possibility of that happening. I don't want to see it happen because you just don't settle a contract without proper negotiations. Joyce and I have worked very diligently. We've come up with a number of proposals, and the thing that scares me, and I'll be honest with you, we would wind up losing new young teachers. And if we have to lose 15 people, then we'll lose 15 people. Class sizes will suffer. If the teachers do not want to negotiate on the 8-period day, which means they would be teaching less, then what happens is that our kids are going to suffer dramatically. And the union hasn't budged. They're very obstinate. And they were out there calling us liars, holding up signs. I mean, I support the teachers. I think we have some very good teachers. I think the union in itself, whether it be the MTA that's driving the bus or our union president, whoever's coming up with the scenario, is doing us more harm than good. And we cannot give out a 5.6 or 2.75 on top of 5.6. That's 8 or 9% a year. Joe, you know and I know, there's no way in real business, in the real life, that somebody working 6 hours a day is going to be making $80,000, $90,000 a year and 8, 9% raises. It doesn't make sense. The town is going to suffer. It really will. You cannot just give away carte blanche money that we do not have.
Well, you're going to have another opportunity because you are a town meeting representative
Absolutely.
as well.
If the school committee, in its infinite wisdom, somewhere along the line prior to town meeting, gives a raise larger than either 2.5 or 2.75%, I will not advocate for the school budget. Unfortunately, I cannot do that. And if I have to cut teachers, I don't want to see teachers cut out of the mix. It doesn't make sense. We said this in the debates, and the teachers think we're trying to cheat them. The step increase, according to the union or the MTA, whoever you want to call it, is driving the bus and saying that it's an entitlement. They're entitled to that money. Joe, Jeff, you both know that what's on paper doesn't mean a thing. If you work for Polaroid, you work for Filene's, you work for Bradley's, they can promise you the world. They're all out of business. There's no money on the table for them. You could have had a contract with Polaroid, or an employee contract, whatever, said you're going to make X amount of dollars, and they close the doors. What did you get? Nothing.
Well, I think Jeff has it. Jeff, did you have a question?
Going forward, you know, what do you see the makeup of the school committee has obviously changed. It's a question I asked both Katie and Joe. Where do you see the school committee, you know, this next year, its relations with the superintendent, you know, just kind of the playing analyst here?
Well, we've had a very good, and we do have, let me tell you this, we have a very good superintendent. The woman is a very bright lady. She knows what she's doing. There is a member of the school committee currently that does not respect her, does not respect women, does not, when he writes articles, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, and he only uses her last name, that's disrespectful. That's not right. I don't see, or I do see, the makeup of the school committee, you're going to have a 3-2 vote almost on everything. It's going to be Katie, Joe, and Erdem. And you'll find maybe Joyce, who's probably one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever worked with, and Dr. Carol Brown, very smart lady. I think you're going to see the divide 3-2. That's what we had years ago, if you remember, the Selectmen. 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. And I think that's what you're going to see more and more now.
And just for the record, you have not closed the book on 2015 candidacy.
No, that is not closed, but there's an age factor. I mean, I'm the old, besides being the tallest person that ran, which is immaterial, but at the same time, being the oldest person, I mean, I've served the town. I have served the town, 27 years on various boards and commissions, 3 years on the school committee, 41 years with Stoyak in the sports programs, 14 years as basketball program director. I mean, I have experience. I know how to work with people. I know how to present my arguments, whether I win or lose, and I've lost a number of them. The votes went against me. You go on. It's not anything personal. It's just something that you present your case, you present your facts, you present your information, and if everybody else agrees with you, they'll vote with you. If they don't agree with me, they won't. I've asked some key questions regarding certain things, certain contracts that we go out for, and some bids that we go out for. I ask the questions that have to be asked. I'm not afraid to make a motion when everybody else will sit there. And it's just annoying at times that you do the best you can, and you got somebody that's out there trying to stab you in the back all the time. So,
Well, I, for one, want to thank you for your service. I'm sure there's a sense of disappointment in this because you wanted to serve on the school committee for another 3 years. But as you said, you may be off that body, but you're not going away. So therefore, we expect that we'll see you out there on the trail doing Stoughton business going forward. So
I'll be
Joe,
around.
Thank you.
Joe, thank you very
George.
much. I appreciate
Yeah.
the confidence. I really do.
Thank you for joining us.
No problem. I think you needed somebody to fill up the airspace. I don't know if anybody else is coming.
Well, we'll see if there's any other, if there are any other candidates. We're not going to stay in the air too much longer, but if there are, we will invite them up. Certainly everybody is welcome to come on this program. Again, George, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So take care. Thank you.
Thank you again. And let's again, if you're just joining us, give you the rundown. We're still waiting on Precinct 4 town meeting numbers. We might not be able to get that in this broadcast. If we don't, I'll direct you to our Facebook page or our website where I'll be able to post that for you. But if we can actually queue up the graphics with the results, I'm going to do the Selectmen first. The Selectmen overall results, Spanky Sousa carrying all but one precinct. He lost precinct 3 by 2 votes. So Spanky Sousa, 7 out of the 8 precincts, coming in first place, and he has a total of 1,868. Joe Mokrisky, former selectman, now current selectman, coming in second place with 1,591 votes. And the incumbent coming into this election, John Anzavino, with 960 votes, coming in third. A really decisive victory for Spanky and Joe Mokrisky. Spanky almost doubling up Mr. Anzavino, and Joe Mokrisky with 630 vote cushion. So really a very bold victory for both of those gentlemen, Spanky Sousa and Joe Mokrisky.
And before you go to the school committee, because
Sure.
I know you have the graphics up, again, there's always the Monday morning quarterbacking on all
Yep.
of these things, and just reflecting back, because as I was driving around town during this election season, and you figure it's within a 4 to 6 week period of time that's done, and we always say signs don't vote, but in this case, I could just say to you that I saw Spanky Sousa signs everywhere across every precinct, and the old adage that signs don't vote. Well, I think there's some indication that these numbers reflect the type of support, and for one first time out, to be able to take 7 out of 8 precincts and lose the 8th one on two votes, that's pretty impressive.
I mean, this is just to put it in perspective in terms of how decisive Spanky's victory was. You look at somebody like Cynthia Walsh, who back when she ran in 2009, finished 700 votes ahead of the second place winner, who was John Anderson.
Yes.
And Cynthia just absolutely carrying the field there. And this was again, you know, Cynthia is a very well-known person in town.
Sit right in that seat that's
Right.
right over there, from the first time I came into the town.
Spanky's well-known too, but you know, in terms of Cynthia had a political
Yes.
background.
Yes.
Spanky, this is his first foray into town politics, and very successful his first time around. Let's move.
And decisive win.
Yes.
Decisive win.
Let's move on to the school committee, where again it was very similar. The incumbents had a similar luck as the selectmen did. The incumbents it wasn't their night. The incumbents, which we just heard from George Dolinsky and Deb Sovany, both of them finishing in 3rd and 4th place. The winners of the school committee race, which you also heard from earlier this evening, Joe and I interviewing them, the school committee race, let's bring up that graphic if it's not already up, and I'll read off those totals for you. Let me just pull them up on my end. School committee, Joe Soares coming in first with 1,418 votes. Pina-Enokian coming in second with 1,377 votes. And in 3rd place, Deb Sovany with 940 votes. 4th place, George Dolinsky with 900. And Randy Anoff in 5th with 338. So you look at Joe Soares and Pina-Enokian, and you have about a 40-vote difference between 1st and 2nd place. And you look at Deb Sovany and George Dolinsky, and they're quite similar. And there's a 40-vote difference between Deb Sovany and George Dolinsky. So I'm sure that there were variations. I'm sure there were combinations of voting, but it sure seems like there was a pattern. You went to the polls today, you voted for Katie and Joe, and you voted for Deb and George. And about 400 more voted for Katie and Joe today.
Yeah, you know, it'll be, again, when you start to tweak the analyses and you start to look at the precincts and you start to look at the past elections and see where are the precincts where the voting generally take place. And I think you alluded to some of that earlier, Jeff, that precinct 4 and 5 are usually rock beds and strongholds of activity when it comes to electoral politics in the town. So, I mean, I think as we talk about that, as far as the participation, when we talk about the issues which really brought out this trend whereby incumbency, and I think we've seen it in earlier campaigns as well, there have been issues that have derailed people. For instance, my neighbor and friend Goulston, in terms of the recall. Issues generally entice people, and that's what you have to understand. Politics is often is not a factual game, it is a visceral game. And it seems like the issues around the contracts, the issues around the raises were lightning rod issues which brought folks out in order to take the incumbents out of this electoral game this time.
It was across the board.
Across the board.
I mentioned at the very top of this telecast, which felt like yesterday now, about how important Precinct 4 was.
Yes.
And Precinct 4 did have the largest turnout, but the results of Precinct 4 were mirrored in every other precinct. And Joe Soares took 6 out of 8 precincts tonight, and Pina-Enokian took 2 of those precincts. The precincts that Joe Soares won, Katie came in second.
Yes.
Those precincts that Katie won, Joe came in second. They finished 1-2 across the board, and again, just like on the Selectmen side, it was a decisive victory, which became I would say, We didn't announce it yet, but I could tell by the looks we were giving each other. After about the third precinct,
Oh.
we did 4, 5, and then 6.
Yeah.
And I think once we did that, we both kind of knew that
It was over.
It was over. You know, too soon to call, obviously, but it seemed to be going the challenger's way, and that's the way it went tonight.
Well, what for me would be interesting to see that, and again, I'm always disturbed by the percentage of turnout, but it is what it is.
And it was
this is, of course,
16 tonight.
You know, and you say, well, and I know if you're in electoral politics, you say, well, if I got any of that 84%, what would have been the change? How could I have reached that 84%? But nonetheless, what I think would, on my own analyses that I would like to look at, because I think electoral politics in Stoughton is going to change going forward, Jeff, because I think we have some hot button issues that are going to remain on the table going forward.
Sure.
South Coast Rail,
The high school.
the library, the possibilities that have to get debt, in terms of increase the debt.
In the fire station,
taxes,
the fire station right up the road is, it's
Yeah.
it's popularly called the Ruins.
Well,
up there, so-
you know that during my time here, I pressed that issue, and I personally, this is the candidates' night, so I don't want to belabor with other town issues, but you know that I've said that Station 1 is deplorable. We tried to, I thought that by now some of those repairs would have been made. I understand they have not been made, so we have our men and women living in deplorable conditions over there, and I still don't understand why that work cannot be done. So there are a number of things that are going to be coming forward, so I think that next year this time, we're going to have some of the same type of vitrolics that have taken place here in next year's election. So I say, stay tuned.
Well, if you are a political junkie, the next election cycle in 2015, the seats that are up on the school committee and the selectmen, Dr. Erdem Ural's seat is up on the school committee. It's a single seat year for the school committee.
Yes.
And then on the selectmen side, Selectman Walsh, Cynthia Walsh, who's the vice chair right now, and Bob O'Regan,
yes.
their seats are up in 2015. So it will be interesting between now and then how the politics change. You looked at last year's election, and there was some of the same frustrations with the contract negotiations were just starting.
Yes.
Some of the same issues you heard about from the school committee side this election, because there wasn't a selectmen's race last year. You kind of heard some of the same issues, but I felt that they intensified between 2013 and 2014. And in 2013, despite a solid showing by the two school committee challengers, Joyce, who was an incumbent, Joyce Husseini, she
Yes.
easily won.
Yes.
She won by about, off the top of my head, 300 or 400 votes. Carol Brown edged Patricia McNeil by about 60 votes. So that was much closer. It seemed like the gap widened from year over year, and the issues that were issues in 2013 only intensified for 2014. And while some of the challengers had some success but couldn't quite get over the hump last year, it seemed like this year just happened to be ripe for a challenger.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, as has been stated throughout the night with respect to the school committee race, the issue of the teacher's contract, the non-settlement of the teacher's contract loomed large, and as some said was a factor, I would contend it was the factor.
Yeah.
It wasn't a factor, it was the factor, and I would say that in this regard, the MTA played a pivotal role in that process of being able to guide the membership of the teachers union in the process of how they do it in terms of electoral politics, and I would just say they did it quite well. This has been fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, I really appreciate it. It's been great to get the analysis where, certainly you've had such a unique role in the town, seeing kind of this political play out, the political process play out from the town manager side? And now how does this affect a town manager, a superintendent, when your board changes? When you go from having, maybe you had a board that you viewed as in your favor to now a board you're not quite so sure if they're in your camp anymore. How does this kind of work in that regard?
Well, I can, I'll speak personally to it. Certainly, it would have a dramatic impact, because now you have to find a way in which to try to get a coalescing, and as I say it in the political world, you want to get 3 votes in your favor. Again, I don't want to speak out of school, but in my conversations with my predecessor, Frank Crimmins, that's one of the reasons why he decided, I wanted to step away from being the town manager, because there was that political shift that happened, for him. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see, as you heard with with at least from Joe Mokrisky, stating that what his preference would be as a chair. It's usually the chair who interfaces with the town manager,
sure,
as it is probably with the chairperson of the school committee as well. And right now, if what Joachim and Enokian Joachim Soares and Pina-Enokian said that they would be voting for Dr. Euro and we already know what his views are and express, that's going to be making it a different dynamic, certainly in the voting process and for the support for the superintendent. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. Certainly. And it's going to take, again, a manager is only as effective as what their boards are, and so it's going to be interesting to see whether that works to their advantage, or whether they can try to work a bridge in order to get the type of support they need. So
yeah, absolutely. And again, that is definitely one of the impacts of an election, is the hired employees that run the town or a department on a day-to-day basis. So before we sign off tonight, let me just go over, if you can bring up Eric in the control room, if you can bring up the final results one more time. And I'll read those off. You can see them on screen. Again, the big winners tonight for the 2014 town election, Spanky Sousa and Joe Mokrisky winning their selectman race. Spanky taking first place with 1,868 votes. Joe Mokrisky, 1,591. John Inzavino, who was the incumbent, denied a third term, coming in third with 960 votes. On the school committee side, challengers Joe Soares and Pina-Enokian coming in first and second respectively, Joe with 1,418 votes and Katie with 1,377. Incumbents Deb Sovany and George Dolinsky, who are both seeking another term. Deb Sovany in third with 940 votes, George Dolinsky in fourth with 900, and in fifth, Randy Yanoff with 338. 16% turned out today to vote in this race, where you had contested races for selectmen and school committee. A total of 2,911 ballots were posted. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
I just want to say this has been a great election term. It was something, I'm sure there are many of surprises here. I'm sure that the incumbents are particularly surprised at the issues which led to this ousting, if you will, of the incumbents. So I think that we're going to have an interesting, with the change of shift of power, if you will, on both the selectmen and on the school committee. It's going to be an interesting time over the next couple of years with the many issues that we have here in the town of Stoughton. So, Jeff, I want to thank you so much.
Mr. Feaster, thank you so much.
I want to thank you.
It was great to have. It was great to have your insight, and I have to thank Eric Stankiewicz, who's in the control room running this show. He does a great job. He also runs all the finance committee and selectmen meetings, and now the school committee meetings, and does a lot of hard work to put those out. Want to thank Christine Iacobucci, who was our reporter downstairs in the trenches, getting us all of the numbers and giving us the opportunity to give us a precinct-by-precinct breakdown of these results as they were coming in. Thank you so much, Christine, Dave Young, Michael Hammond at Stoughton Media Access for all of their support. I'm Jeffrey Pickette from Stoughton Media Access. This has been a night where the challengers have taken the night. Joe Soares and Katie Enokian for the school committee, David Spanky Sousa and Joe Mokrisky for the Selectmen. Once again, I'm Jeffrey Pickette. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure that you tune into other SMAC programming on Comcast 9 and Verizon 28. And if you have a Verizon, make sure you check out our government channel as well on Verizon 24. We'll see you next time on Stoughton Media Access. Thank you so much for tuning in.